This is Stock Day. News and interviews from the microcap world. Public information on the OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. With your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, we have a very exciting guest. His name is Ken Waggoner. He is the CEO of PharmaCyte Biotech, Inc., ticker symbol PMCB on the OTCQB. Ken, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Hi, Everett. I'm doing great. Glad to have us on your show.
Tell me a little bit about your company, the treatment that you guys are working on, solid tumor cancers, and
Sure.
And we'll take it from there.
That sounds good. Well, we're a clinical stage biotechnology company. We're focused on developing therapies for cancer and diabetes, and we're doing that based upon a unique cellulose-based live cell encapsulation technology that we refer to as cell in a box. And this technology is going to be used as a platform upon which we're developing several types of treatments for solid tumors, cancerous solid tumors, and diabetes. This encapsulation technology is unique in that we put genetically modified live cells into these capsules for cancer, for example, to activate an inactive chemotherapy drug into its active or cancer-killing form. Now, these capsules are generally placed as close as we can to a cancerous tumor as possible, and once implanted, the chemotherapy drug, which normally is activated in the liver, is activated when the drug is brought by the blood into where the capsules are implanted, again, as close to the tumor as possible. Now, what's unique about our chemotherapy treatment with this delivery platform is that we give the chemotherapy drug at about 1/3 the normal dose, which results in absolutely no side effects that you normally associate with chemotherapy. For diabetes, we use the same technology, but in the capsules we put genetically modified cells that have been genetically engineered to produce insulin. What the cells do is they read your blood glucose level, they generate the amount of insulin you need to the extent that you need it, they then release it into your bloodstream, and thereby effectively acting as an artificial pancreas.
So let's recapture here for a second. You have a new product that you guys are working on called Cell in the Box. It does about three things. It encapsulates. It also has an artificial pancreas that cell line capable of producing insulin in the body, right?
Well, sort of. The encapsulation technology is used to put genetically modified cells to put in the body to treat different types of diseases. For cancer, the genetically modified cells that are put in those capsules and then the capsules are implanted in a patient convert an inactive chemotherapy drug to its active form. That's how we treat solid cancerous tumors. For diabetes, we use the same technology, those capsules, but we put a different type of genetically modified cell in those capsules. And our idea is to implant those capsules in the body to act as an artificial pancreas.
So my understanding is you guys were out in Australia at a huge biopharmaceutical diabetes conference, and you guys are having some leading technologies in this area?
Well, our leading technology, our leading what we call product candidate is to develop an effective treatment for pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest forms of cancer. Now it's the third leading cause of cancer of cancer deaths in the Western world. Unfortunately, about 50,000 people in the U.S. alone will get it this year. Of those 50,000, about 40,000 will die. The numbers are even worse in Europe. The problem with pancreatic cancer is that 90% of the patients die within 2 years of diagnosis, and there aren't great therapies available to treat pancreatic cancer. One of the reasons is because it's a latent disease. It's very difficult to diagnose at an early stage. Normally it's diagnosed when the patient is unable to have an operation to cut the cancerous tumor out.
And this is your leading product, is that correct?
It is. You had mentioned Australia. We were planning on going into Australia to do a clinical trial to go head-to-head with what is now the gold standard in the treatment of pancreatic cancer. It's a combination therapy of Abraxane and gemcitabine, that Celgene's combination to treat advanced pancreatic cancer. We decided not to do that. We decided, after consulting with 3 of the world's leading experts in pancreatic cancer, to bring the treatment or the clinical trial to the United States to meet an unmet medical need, a critical unmet medical need here in the United States and in Europe. And so what we've done is we've redesigned the trial. We had initially planned on comparing our therapy with the gold standard. Again, that's Abraxane and gemcitabine. And we decided not to do that. We decided that there was a more urgent need to treat patients that become refractory or they have no further clinical benefit from receiving the gold standard. And those patients usually show up about 4 to 6 months into their therapy. And so what we've done is we've designed this clinical trial, redesigned it actually, to address this critical unmet medical need. And the critical unmet medical need is that there is really no meaningfully effective treatment once someone gets no further benefit from the gold standard. We think we have the answer to that unmet medical need.
Do you think you guys can fast track this?
Well, there's always that possibility. What we've done is we've designed the trial to have a hard stop after we start 6 months into it to read the data, and depending upon the data, that will determine whether we were going to be able to fast track it. If we do, then it's we move on to a marketing and approval application.
Outstanding. My guest today is Ken Waggoner. He is the CEO of PharmaCyte Biotech Inc. It's on the OTCQB symbol PMCB. Ken, let me ask you a couple of questions. I know a little bit about fast track. I know a little bit about the EU market. It was so much easier to get something approved over in Europe than it is with the FDA here. Where are you at on trials? Have you already done human testing? Are you in phase 1, phase 2? If you can give myself and listeners an update on that.
Sure. This technology was around and actually got an award of a breakthrough technology of the decade in Europe back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. There was actually a combination phase 1-2 clinical trial of this technology treating pancreatic cancer. 13 patients were treated back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Tremendous results. Actually, doubled the median survival and about doubled the percentage of 1-year survivors against the then gold standard, which was gemcitabine alone. What they didn't do in the trial was they didn't do a comparator study at the same time. What they did is they compared the data against the then, in those days, the gold standard gemcitabine. What we're doing is we're picking up from that clinical trial and a second clinical trial where other patients, new patients went through a phase 2 trial. And I should mention that in the first phase 1 trial, they were only 2 doses of the chemotherapy agent. The agent being used was ifosfamide at 1/3 the normal dose. They got tremendous results. They tried a phase 2 trial. And what they did, much like oncologists do, is they doubled the dose because they always think more is better. And when they doubled the dose, they didn't get any more meaningful benefit on the tumor reduction or the median survival or percentage of 1-year survivors, but they pulled treatment-related side effects. With the first trial, there were no treatment-related side effects. So what we're doing, to answer your question, is we're starting a phase 2B clinical trial, meaning we're going to actually have a comparator arm in our trial. We're going to be comparing our treatment against what is the standard of care once a patient becomes refractory to gemcitabine and Abraxane and another drug combination called FOLFIRINOX. Capecitabine and radiation is normally given when somebody gets no further benefit from the gold standard. So we're going to compare our treatment to what the patient gets when they get no further benefit from the gold standard. Again, capecitabine and radiation. We think we'll be able to best that by a considerable amount. And what's even more important than that, we believe our treatment will take inoperable tumors to a point where they'll be operated on, and that's a game changer.
That is a game changer.
If you can operate on a pancreatic cancer tumor, a patient has a shot at far more life.
Can you give us some sort of time frame of when you think you might be coming out of phase 1 or phase 2 and actually going to market?
It's a little difficult, and the reason it's difficult is that we're still wrestling with the last little bit of our trial design. We believe we'll be in the trial in late Q2 to mid to late Q3, and we won't know until 6 months into it just how good this treatment really is. And the reason I say that is because, again, in the earlier 2 clinical trials that were done, only 2 courses of the chemotherapy drug ifosfamide were given. We're going to be given ifosfamide on a regular basis until there's no further benefit. So the horizon we don't know what the horizon looks like until we get there. If the data turns out to be as remarkable as I believe our oncologists think it will be, then it may be that we get fast track, but if not, the trial will go on for a year. And after that, again, we'll have to look at the data, and depending upon the strength of the data, we may get fast track, or we may have to go through another phase 3 trial, which would be your marketing approval trial, which would be another year to a year and a half.
Today's guest has been Ken Waggoner. He is the CEO of PharmaCyte Biotech, Inc. The ticker symbol is PMCB. It is on the OTCQB. Ken, thank you very much for coming on Stock Day. In closing, is there anything you want to go over that we haven't?
No, not at all, Everett. Thank you so much for having me as your guest, and I look forward to coming back and updating you from time to time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.